This episode is brought to you by Farmers Insurance. When was the last time you reviewed your insurance policy? So it's been a while, huh? Well, no worries. My friends at the Austin Brummett Agency would love to hear from you and provide you with some amazing rates. Give them a call at 678 402 8262 or email them at abrummett@farmersagent.com. That's ABRUMIT at farmersagent.com, and tell them Harley sent you. Insiders, Inside the Bubble with Harley G is now sponsored by BetterHelp. As a partner of this episode, listeners can access the BetterHelp link located in the show notes to receive 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp and get matched with a therapist who will listen and help. Go to BetterHelp, that is BetterHelp.com/inside the bubble, the link to get started. You're listening to Inside the Bubble with Harley G, the podcast for the superwoman. Every week, we connect with amazing individuals who share their inspirational experiences and stories while motivating and inspiring purpose. It's time to hang your cape. Grab your coffee, your water, your cocktail, and come on in Inside the Bubble with me, your host, Harley G. With Harley G and D hashtag Rick.
Hello.
D Rick.
D-Rick, yes.
D Rick. I just renamed you. And that sounds better.
D Rick. You know, that was a nickname I got from a previous person that I worked with, Jennifer Paul Smith.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
She used to call me D Rick, and it's just like this nickname that I held on ever since then.
Okay, I like it. Thanks, Jennifer. But I have Derek on the pod today to talk a little bit about his journey. Now, me personally, funny enough is I've heard bits and pieces of your journey. So I haven't heard the whole thing. So this would be very nice to actually hear your journey coming from you. And I just thought it was an amazing story to even begin with because you were like discovered when you came to work at Gas South. So I want to talk about that. However, I actually want to go back because we've had the opportunity to sit down and really talk about life.
Yeah.
And I felt like I've had like glimpses of it. But tell us a little bit about you and even how you grew up and some challenges that you went through, growing up as a young adult, finding your way, all that stuff.
Sure. It's interesting. I was sitting thinking about like the topics and what to cover, because when I sit down and think about my life, I really don't think of it as like, oh, I've had all these accomplishments, all these achievements, and all of these hardships. It's just life.
Yeah.
In my eyes.
Yeah.
And so last night I was sitting down and I was trying to make some notes of like, here's some key things that I probably should talk about that may help others. And I realized every year, I got down to sometimes my OCD takes over, and my mind will run wild. And so by the time I was finished, I actually had created this sheet that was like, well, this is what I did at 19, 20, 21, 22,
wow.
22. And then I did like these subsections under it about like, well, what were some of the personal hardships that I had? What were some of the career
wins
wins that I've had in my life? And I was like, I've really been through a lot, and I think I discount that a lot.
Exactly.
It's just life.
You don't give yourself enough credit for everything that you, because we tend to think about accomplishment as these big things, right? Like, oh, I got that big promotion, or I became a manager, or I bought that house. But it's so much more than that. There's so many little wins in between that add up to that big moment.
That's right.
And we tend to overlook them sometimes. So how did you grow up?
So, growing up, I grew up in Georgia, more in
Hmm.
northwest Georgia. It's not so little of a town; it's getting pretty big now. But when I was growing up there, it was Cartersville,
Oh
so
yes,
not too far
yeah.
from Accord.
Yep. Hmm.
So I haven't traveled too far from where I originally grew
You
up.
stand in your little
I stayed in
bubble.
my bubble.
Exactly. Look at it. Oh,
Yeah.
see how we did
Yep.
that? See? Okay.
Plan that.
Yes.
So I grew up in Cartersville. I wouldn't say that we grew up poor,
Hmm.
and the reason I say that is that I've had a lot of experiences that have shaped my perspective of life.
Hmm.
And so, if you were to ask me, 20 years ago, did I grow up poor? I'd say, yeah, I grew up
Hmm.
poor. It was on the line of poverty.
Hmm.
Not that my family or my parents, they worked all the time.
Hmm.
And my dad worked two jobs as long as I can remember to support us. But we had food, but
Hmm.
there was definitely times where we had the power cut off, the water was cut off, and we
Hmm.
had to figure out how to survive with it for a couple of days
Hmm.
until there was some money to pay it.
Yeah.
Um, Now, as a kid, I would say I was pretty happy.
Hmm.
Like I didn't think of poverty,
Right.
as a child. It was just life,
Yeah.
right?
Things happen.
And I was a pretty happy kid for the most part. Though I would say it changed a lot when my parents bought their first house, though.
Mm.
And I didn't realize this until probably a year ago,
Okay.
about how my childhood was actually pretty awesome. And at one
Hmm.
point, I was like, "Yeah, my childhood sucked. I didn't have, we were poor,
Really?
um, and yeah, yeah, like it
Mm.
just society. What society teaches us to
Mm.
be in
Hmm.
comparison, like I thought my childhood was horrible,
Yeah.
and it took me a long time to get that maturity, the experience in life to really understand that it was a really good childhood. My
Hmm.
parents did everything. No, they weren't there all the time
Hmm.
because they were working, but I was happy. I had toys, I had friends,
Hmm.
and things of that nature. So it actually was a pretty good childhood. But
Hmm.
in terms of America, we were American poor, and I say
Hmm.
that because my wife is Mexican,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
she grew up poor, and her poor
You're
and
poor
my
and your
poor,
poor are two
they're
different poors.
they're very different. Yes, and I actually got the opportunity to go visit with her family,
Yeah.
where she grew up, and it really blew my mind because when you think of Mexico, I think for most people in America, anyways,
Hmm.
we think about like sunshine and beaches and
In this
all.
cute place that you go
Right.
to like vacation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So we go and visit her family, and it's like this video from those 3 a.m. commercials with
Hmm.
Sarah McLachlan in the arms of an angel singing, and
You know.
it's
Okay, I'm not gonna
showing.
sing.
Hey, go for it.
I
We'll
know.
sing too.
Oh my gosh.
Uh, but it was like one of those villages or something that they showed on
Mm.
those commercials, right? There's kind of trash everywhere. There's not really um, a place for you to sleep, right? They share one bedroom,
Mhm.
and that's the only thing that's covered. Their kitchen has a little bit of a cover, but their
Wow.
kitchen, living room, all that stuff is outside.
Wow.
And then they have like a little well that's their well water, which is filtered rainwater. They have like this big bucket on
Wow.
top of the roof that catches the water, and then their bathroom is an outhouse, right? And this was 2016, so
Oh my gosh.
this wasn't like it was just a
That wasn't even 10 years ago.
right.
Okay.
So, anyways, a lot of those things that I experienced put things
Mhm.
in perspective for me, and so um, looking back now, I say I had a great childhood. But it did have some things that was probably abnormal
Mhm.
to most people,
Mhm.
which is the fact that I had to grow up in a mindset of being like a survivor.
Mm.
And what that means is my parents, they worked a lot. And
Mhm.
so there were nights where my dad wouldn't get home till midnight,
Mhm.
right? And my
Mhm.
mom, she worked, and she worked usually like second shift. And
Mhm.
so, I'd be at school all day, right?
Right.
When I get up for school, my dad's already gone. My mom, she's in the bed because she worked the
Sleeping.
night before.
Right.
Um, so it was pretty much my sister and I was like, hey, you guys got to kind of figure out how to take care of yourself. So
Mhm.
here I am, like at 8 years old, 7 years old, like I'm cooking myself food. Um,
Mhm.
taking care of myself, making sure that I take a shower, making sure that I did my schoolwork.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have somebody there to constantly tell me to do these things.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't ever tell me. I don't want to make it out like they're bad parents.
No. Mm-hmm.
But we just had to do a lot more for my sister and I had to do a lot more for ourselves than say
a typical 8-year-old, right? Okay.
Like my kids,
man,
my baby, she's 18 years old. She'll be 19 this year, and that my poor baby, she still struggles with cooking. I love her.
My poor baby. This is the Southern equivalent to bless your heart.
Yes. Yes. Bless your heart.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So looking at that independence, how early on you had to gain it and grasp it. And in essence, like you said, quote unquote, survive with it. And then you compare that to your 18-year-old and you're like.
Yeah, at her age, I already had a kid. I was a general manager at Wendy's. I was married and had my own house.
Wow.
Well, between 18 and 19.
Yeah.
So somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I think it was, I turned 19.
Right. And she's just struggling with cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to jump back to my childhood a little bit. So I would say I've had a pretty normal childhood, all things considered. But what really changed the shape of my path, I think, is that my mom and dad divorced when I was 15, 16, so somewhere around there. And when they got divorced, it wasn't a pleasant divorce. Okay. Unfortunately, there was nothing against them.
Right.
People are people. We're emotional beings.
Yeah.
But they didn't get along very well when they went through that divorce, and I was kind of put in this awkward situation of like,
pick.
Yes. Yeah. And so I did, unfortunately. And this is a lesson learned because you can't get time back. Ever.
Yeah.
But when he left, and I didn't really have much to do with him, and kind of my mom didn't want me to either, and I understand it. Like I'm not mad at her for that. I was, but I've learned how to forgive and forget. It took me a long time to figure that out.
Listen.
I was
whatever formula you came up with, you probably need to tell us about it because we're all struggling.
Yeah,
but yes,
it's about realizing how short time is and how precious life is in my mind. And once you figure that out, nothing else is really that important. Yeah. At the end of the day. Yeah. Sorry, I jump all over the place.
You're good. You're good. Okay. So your parents are going through this.
They went through
life altering.
Yes. Very life altering.
Yes.
For me, to where my dad's there one day, the next day he's gone.
He's gone.
He's gone for years. Wow. And some of that's my fault too. Like again, I want to be careful about how I say these things because I don't want to put. Nobody is a perfect parent.
Absolutely.
I know.
Parenting does not come with a handbook, okay?
At all.
Anyway, yes.
So when he left, I was actually in seventh grade. I was just finishing seventh grade, and I was already in advanced classes, so I was getting high school credit in seventh grade.
Wow.
I don't know why. It's just when I comprehend something, I just comprehend it.
You understand?
I would say probably a little bit slower than most people to comprehend it.
Get it?
When I get it at an expert level. Like I know it inside and out.
Got it.
But just a little bit slower sometimes.
Yeah.
So when he left, I was in seventh grade. I was transitioning to eighth grade, and I think I was going into four out of my 6 classes for high school. I was getting high school credits for him. So I was doing really well in school. But when he left, that obviously created a financial gap. And of course, then there's the fallout of the divorce, and there's not child support coming in during that time. So we're in this house where mom's trying to make ends meet, pay the bills. And so it was like, well, I'm doing pretty good in school. Maybe we do homeschool and I can work and then I can help support and go to school too. Well, that sounded like great in theory. Well, depends on perspective.
Right.
Depends on perspective. Okay. Looking back, it probably wasn't the best idea, but hey,
But you
live
know
and
what?
learn.
When you're in the thick of it, you just, like you said, you're just trying to survive. You're just trying to
Yes,
figure out what are options here, right?
surviving. Yes.
Exactly. Ladies, I know there's so much to do and not enough time in the day. Trust me, I'm right there with you. But what are you doing for yourself? Well, I've recently discovered Body Bar Pilates. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Body Bar Pilates will challenge all of your major muscle groups and provide you with a full body workout. Wow. Listen, I had to check it out. I took a class with Sherelle and it was amazing. They have workouts for all skill levels, whether you're just starting out or you're just looking for a new way to move your body. This is the community for you. Check out my friends at Body Bar Pilates East Cobb or give them a call at 678-941-4371. And don't forget to mention me, Harley G.
So I went to work at Wendy's at 14 years old, which a lot of people don't know. You can actually get a worker's permit at 14 in Georgia.
Oh.
Just a lot lot of people don't want to hire.
Let's pause real quick. Let me go tell that to my 15. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah.
No, it's just me.
But a lot of companies don't want to hire 14-year-olds
right.
because what happens if they get hurt?
Exactly.
14-year-old.
There's a liability involved. It's a minor. All of that. Right.
So a lot of people are not keen on hiring
14. Right.
Even 15 now, right?
And even then, like, so there's all the legalities, but also like their level of maturity, right? So it's like,
makes a huge.
Are you really Look, are you really gonna close the store like you're supposed to? You know, like there's that too.
Exactly.
But yes.
So I started working when I was 14, and the homeschool stuff kind of faded to the side. And I ended up getting my GED when I was 16.
Okay.
And I did very well working. Like I always had like this very strong work ethic. I think I got that from my parents. I see my dad work 2 jobs, and even when he wasn't at work, he was at home cutting the grass or doing something around the house. And so I had a very strong work ethic, and I did very well with just, like I said before, I looked at the processes, the procedures, memorized them, become an expert, so to speak, at it. And I did very, very well on various roles when I was working there. And so when I was 16, I went and got my GED, and I was like, I'm making pretty good. At 16 years old, I was making, I don't know, probably like $9 an hour. This is like 2000 though, right?
Listen,
so $6 and
$6.25. Rich. We are rich.
When I first started.
Almost. Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're making decent money.
Yeah.
For that time.
For my age.
Exactly.
I was making decent money.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, this is pretty cool.
Yes.
And I was getting the opportunity to do manager-like things at that age too. Right. I was what they call a crew leader. And so what that meant is when the employees were hired, I would train them and I would do, a lot of people when you hear Wendy's, it's like, it's a fast food restaurant. Now, Wendy's I don't know if they still do. It's been quite some time since I worked there. But they had really good processes around training. Like they had videos, and then they would have a pamphlet that you had to carry as the trainer, and you would basically monitor their behaviors throughout the day and watch the procedures. So you became very knowledgeable on competencies at a very early age, sir. Yeah, I guess so. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. So I did that, and I did really well with the program. I pretty much managed it myself. And it helped the store that I worked at become what was called Service Excellence Certified. Wow. And basically what that means is all of your employees are trained properly, you're executing policies correctly, and you're operating your store at the most efficient level. Yes, yes. And it's like a prestigious award. You can't just, anybody can just get it. You got to work for it. Right, right. So I did very well with that, and when I turned 17, the district manager there come to me and was like, hey, would you be interested in being an assistant manager? It starts out at $22,000 a year. And yeah, I mean, at 17, I'm like, yeah, like, do I start next week? But 22,000 doesn't sound like a lot today. Listen, I don't care. I don't care. Money is money. Well, okay. 2003, 22,000. I'm making. I'm 17. Yes, exactly. Please. I'll take it all day. Exactly. So I'm like, well, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's going to be a very positive career path for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind, I come from a very small town, Cartersville.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking like I've hit the lottery, like you
Yes.
know. And so I get assigned to this store that's low volume, has some issues.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out, general manager's stealing money. Um,
What? Oh my
for
gosh.
years. I don't know how much like it ended up being, but anyways, we'll come back to that
Okay.
because I eventually got his job.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right.
So I was an assistant manager at this store, and I basically repeated the same recipe of success that I had at the previous store I worked at as a crew leader. Basically, got all the training program stuff put together. I helped them with hiring. Also, started to learn about forecasting and P&L and things of that nature as well. Um, and so I had a lot of success there, and I was probably only in that position for about 6 months or so, maybe 7 months, something like that.
Less than a year, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
And I got promoted to a co-manager, which is next level up. So there's general manager, co-manager, assistant manager.
Got it.
So I got promoted to a co-manager. I moved to another store. This store was a lot higher volume. So this was like a pretty nice increase in pay for me because bonuses are based off of how much a store makes.
Got it.
And so I moved to this higher volume store over by Lassiter off of Shalford Road. And that's a higher volume store. And started making more money. And so now I'm 18 years old, and I think I was making like $27,000 a year. So I'm like doing good.
Yes.
Now, in between kind of this 17, 18, 19 area, well, between 17 and 18, I started dating my first wife too, and had my first daughter at 18. I was still 18. I turned 19 that August. She was born in April. So I met my first wife during kind of all this career stuff too. And I thought she was amazing, and I thought she wanted the same things. And we'll get to that later, but so life was good though. I was 18.
How was life at home? Because now, for all intents and purposes, you did go back. You did get your GED.
Yes.
But like then after that, you were just kind of focused on work, right?
Career focused only. Yes.
And then your mom, your sister, they're doing their own thing. Yeah. Whatever. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So there's so much. I probably skipped over a lot of things. There's just so much.
Yeah.
I moved out when I was 17.
You moved out. Okay.
I could afford to. Right?
Yeah.
And I was emancipated. So through their divorce, like when they actually got through the divorce proceedings and everything, sometimes that can take a long time.
Yeah.
One, it's expensive, but two, then just getting in the courts and fighting back and forth about who gets what. By the time they actually got divorced legally, the courts had actually deemed me to be emancipated because I made so much money.
What?
And that was like the fight against like paying child support, right? Because I was still 17.
Yeah.
And my dad's lawyer's like, he doesn't need child support. He's
making exactly
making more than most people sitting in this room.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And so I was emancipated at that point, and I was a survivor. Like I'm focused on taking care of me. My mom's working, my sister's working. It's pretty much just Derek taking care of Derek in my mind. And so I moved out to it's a trailer. My grandmother owned. Moved out and got my own place in a trailer. And I moved out. All I had was a queen size bed and a 32-inch TV. That was it. Wow. So I had this like 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom trailer. It was nice. It was a nice trailer. And all I had was a TV and a bed.
On a bed.
That's it. That's all I had.
I mean, that's it.
That's all I needed.
Right.
I was happy.
You was like, it's just me.
Got my own place.
Exactly.
Like I got a job. Like I got a job making good money. Like life is great. I got my girlfriend at the time, fiance at the time, making lots of money. I'm great. And somewhere in between being an assistant manager and a co-manager, between 18, 19, somewhere in that area, we bought our first house too in 2004. So had our daughter in 2004. bought our first house in 2006.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Timeline's running.
Yes,
I'm getting old.
Well, first of all, the fact that you're kind of like remembering all of this in chronological order is amazing in itself. So anyway, I feel like,
So we moved out to our own place, doing good. Things are great. We buy our first house. I think it was 2000. It was either 2005 or 2006. And this was before the whole 2008 recession.
Yes. Right.
I unfortunately was one of those dummies that went and got a loan and couldn't pay it. But things happen, and that's why. But when we moved into the house, we were making good money. We were financially stable. Everything was great. The problem is nobody ever taught me how to save money. Nobody taught me how to manage my money. It was just something I figured out on my own. I don't know if I'd say I figured out on my own, because I made some very dumb financial decisions.
Yeah, but you kind of lessons learned, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. The thing that I always tell myself is I've been through a lot, but I've learned a lot.
Exactly.
As well, that probably a lot of people in my age have not been through. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
So bought our first house. Everything was great. Then my first wife, she went into leadership as well, and it didn't work out so well, unfortunately, because what happened is she started working a lot of nights. I was working days. We were basically just passing off our daughter between shifts, and so we didn't really see each other a whole lot. And this led to some infidelity in the marriage, unfortunately. Not me. I've always very, very much believed if you're married and you're committed to somebody, then that's it. Regardless of how much you might dislike them, as long as you're married, you've committed to them.
Exactly.
And I'm not like bashing my ex-wife. I'm not saying I was a perfect husband either. I was 18. I got married 3 days after I was 18. I turned 18 on August 13th. I got married on August 16th. So, but this is what I wanted now. Like, in Derek's mind, like, I thought about this since I was a younger teenager. Like, this is the life that I want. This is what I want to do.
That you want to make for yourself.
I knew exactly what I wanted.
Exactly.
So I was happy. I was living the American
dream. Exactly.
And we had nice cars too. Because I'm a car enthusiast.
Oh my goodness! Cars. Listen, I could probably hear Derek 10 minutes away before he got to the door. Okay, cars. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later. But yes, cars. They're definitely your thing. Okay.
So we had nice cars, and we had the car I had at the time was for my car people out there. It was a '99 Mustang Cobra SVT.
What? What color was it? Was it red?
It was black.
Oh, it was black. Okay.
It was black.
Okay.
Black interior with chrome wheels. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Okay.
Both
of my sisters had Mustangs at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Different. Nice. But both of them had a Mustang, and one of them still has it. Shout out to Lily. She still has her Mustang, and she's like, I'm not. It's going to become an heirloom piece or whatever you want to call it. But she's like, I don't care what happens to that car. I'm keeping it.
Yeah. So, forever.
Ever. Yes. Yeah. So.
So life was good. But then things started going downward because we weren't seeing each other a whole lot. We bought a house that honestly we had no business buying. We didn't know how to manage our money, and it was kind of her story is very similar. My first wife's kind of similar to mine, just kind of poverty, raised in poverty, American poverty.
Yeah.
And so neither one of us really knew how to manage money. Long story short, we ended up losing the house. The car that I had, the Mustang Cobra, blew up the motor. It was $8,000 at the time to replace it because it was newer technology and it wasn't very cheap to fix that kind of car. So
$8,000 is a lot now.
Yeah.
So imagine then.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, back then it was like
that's like you may as well said 100. Exactly.
Right.
No.
And so that car broke. Luckily, my mom came through and let me use one of her cars. It was an old Kia Sportage, but hey, it got me from A to B.
Listen, that Kia come through.
I'm telling you. And the bills just started piling I didn't have the car, but I'm still paying for it. I'm having to pay the insurance on it, but I can't drive it.
Right.
And now I've got this other car that I'm driving. I'm having to pay insurance on it. Plus, my ex-wife's car and insurance on it, and everything just started to really pile up because we were living outside our means.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so we ended up losing the house, and we filed bankruptcy at 21 years old. Wow. 21. Bankruptcy.
So we've went from on top of the world, I'm making all this money, I'm in a trailer, and now I've married, have a child, divorcing, losing the house, bankruptcy.
Yeah. Divorce after bankruptcy.
Divorce after bankruptcy.
Yes.
Got it. So it's like, what kind of mental phase are you at this point? Are you in?
Honestly, looking back, it's survival.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even, looking back now, it's just, okay, this sucks. This happened. Now, what do I do to fix it?
Yeah.
I gotta fix this. And so that's what I started doing. And it took a very long time. I'll tell you, if anybody who's ever had experience filing bankruptcy, it takes a long time to bounce back from that because it stays on your credit for 10 years. Wow. And what makes it worse, though, is I didn't learn my lesson through the bankruptcy. It took me a minute to figure out what I needed to do. So,
but you don't have anybody even at this point. It doesn't even sound like you have somebody sitting here telling you, Derek, okay, this is what you should consider. This is what you should think about. Like, you go from here to here. Like, it didn't sound like you had anybody that could like really kind of walk you through the process and really help you. So you're just out here figuring it out on your own.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's a story of my life, right? Anything you put in front of me, I'm going to figure it out. It might take me a minute, but I'm going to figure it out at some point. So, and you fast forward to today, I'm feeling great.
Listen.
Amazing.
Making these videos on Facebook. Chicken delight. Anyway. Chips and salsa. Anyway. Oh my gosh. It was the most funniest thing. Y'all gotta go check it out. We'll tell you about that. But anyway.
So went through bankruptcy. Marriage started to deteriorate, and she had other individuals she was interested in and pursued.
Okay.
I don't want to make her sound bad, but I think it adds to the effect of the story to tell this part. Is she had 3 boyfriends.
3?
3. And she was given the money, which is also what I later figured out was happening to so much of our money when we had the house. Because this was happening then. I suspected it. I never had any proof, though. It was just, where are you at? What are you doing? It was a very toxic relationship. It was awful.
Yeah.
I learned great things from it, though, and I will give it that. I won't say it was completely terrible.
Okay.
But, so the marriage deteriorated. Ended up finding out she had like these boyfriends, and the way that I found this out, and I don't know how much you want me to share or not.
Go share.
All right. So the way I finally knew she was cheating is that she gave me chlamydia.
What? Oh, Lord.
My wife gave me chlamydia, and that's how I found out. That's how I knew finally. Like, I always suspected it, but that was how I knew at that point she was cheating. Because, like, I know what I do.
Right,
I know
exactly.
I go, and, I know where I've been.
Wow.
So when I went to the doctor thinking, it was something else, and they're like, no. It's like, are you sure? Because, like, this is about to, like, ruin my life.
Oh, Lord. Ask the doctor to be sure. Oh, but yeah.
And, I remember that day and going home and
confronting her.
Yes, and she denied it at first, and then we did eventually get to what she had done. And I want to know, like, what happened. I didn't want to know. Like, you don't ever want to know. Just let it go. Just let it go.
He's like, I don't even know the whole story. I'm good.
You think.
Exactly.
Do, but I promise you don't.
Really don't.
So we ended up living with her parents for about 6 months.
Okay.
And during that time, we of course, took care of the things that were left over from bankruptcy, sold off some of the stuff that we couldn't fit in the storage unit, things of that nature, and saved up a little bit of money so we could get back to our own place. And we eventually did. After that 6 months, we saved up some money. And then we got this apartment. We got a 2-bedroom apartment, and things were okay. But we still continued down the path where she's working nights, I'm working days. We're still not seeing each other.
Yeah.
And eventually, it came to a head about a year and a half into living in this apartment, where she finally, it's crazy. People didn't think I'm crazy telling y'all this, but it took her leaving me for that relationship to end. She finally was the one that was like, "Look, this isn't going to work. We're done." And it took me a minute to accept that. It was really hard. I mean, I truly loved her, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think it was reciprocal.
Yes.
Reciprocated? Yep. Reciprocated.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I make up words on the podcast all the time. Great. So they should be used to.
I got all kinds of great words.
Listen. Exactly. They'll be like, okay, that's just, yeah.
So, anyways, so we ended up getting divorced. I got a townhouse in Cartersville, and me and my daughter stayed there for the most part. I ended up having my daughter most of the time, which was great. Like, I needed that. I needed something to keep me
stable.
Keep me going, keep me focused on, like, what am I doing all this for? Why do I get up and go to work every day? It's for my kid. Like,
and you're still working at Wendy's?
Yes.
Throughout this, okay.
I'm still working at Wendy's. And so I did leave Wendy's for about 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
I went and worked at Applebee's for a little while.
Okay.
After I went through the divorce,
I was at Applebee's for like a year or two.
Yeah.
It was like a year. Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah. I was a waitress.
Okay.
I'm all about that waitress life. I started this restaurant that nobody knows. And then after that is when me and a bunch of girlfriends who were in college, we decided it would be fun if we worked together. So we all went and worked at Applebee's.
Nice.
And so we worked at Applebee's for about a year or so. And then I transferred to this place called Up the Creek. It was like a seafood restaurant. It was brand new, Montgomery, Alabama. So it was like talk of the town. Worked there for a little while. Got fired from there because I didn't show up. Listen, you're young. You think you know everything. You think you know life. I was also still in school, and so I was just like, And then, but that kind of hit me though. I was like, did I just get fired from like my first job ever? I mean, like, first time. Yeah. And I was just like, that's not cool. And went and got a job at the OG Olive Garden, and that became like I was like, I'm gonna work hard. And so I worked there for years, transferred to Atlanta, to the Applebee's right there on Cop Parkway.
Yeah, Spring Street.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, like, I worked at Applebee's for years after that. But I'm about that restaurant life. Yeah. I lived it.
Yeah, and Applebee's was a fun job.
It was fun. It really was fun. It was fun. Yeah.
I was an assistant manager there, though. Oddly enough, I made more as an assistant manager at Applebee's than I did at Wendy's as a general manager.
I can see that. And even the way Applebee's came in, this was a new Applebee's. Even their model in coming in and training individuals, like I was like, wow, it was really cool because they really get the people, they really get the employees to buy into the mission of Applebee's and what they're trying to accomplish. So it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it was a fun job. I only stayed there for 4 months though because I ended up having my daughter so much.
Right.
I didn't know how things were going to work out at the time, but I ended up working mostly. It was like 5 to 2, 5 p.m. to 2 in the morning, out in Rome, and
oh wow,
yeah,
okay,
it was a little,
that's like an hour, right?
From here, yes. From Cartersville, it was probably 30 minutes, maybe at the most, depending on what car I'm driving.
Yeah. Well, if you were driving Mustang, anyway.
But I ended up leaving there because I would have my daughter, and of course she's 4 three, 4 at this age, and she's up at 7 o'clock. She's ready to go.
Mm.
I just got to bed like 4 hours ago,
Oh, oh my
and
gosh.
she's ready.
She's ready.
Hungry.
They're
She
ready.
wants cartoons. Like it's time
Exactly.
to go.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it. I couldn't work there. Those late nights, and then come home and then try to be up with her at 7 in the morning. It just wasn't a good combination. And so I ended up going back to Wendy's because I controlled my own schedule as a general manager there, and so I work 8 to 5 most of the time. Well, it's not true. It's probably more like 6 to 7.
Okay. Okay.
If we're being honest.
But yes, right? Because by the time you prep and get ready, open up the store, and then by the time you close it,
yeah, so some long days.
Yes.
But I did get the opportunity to spend more time with my kid, my daughter Haley, and so I went back to Wendy's for probably about 18 months or so. And I knew I didn't want to do it anymore. I knew that at Wendy's I couldn't retire with a decent, savings account or IRA or 401k. They offered those things, but they weren't great.
Right, exactly.
They're not somewhere you're going to be able to retire from, at least from Derek's experience. And I looked around and I seen, I'm a general manager. I'm 22 at this point. And I've been a general manager for 5 years, right? Since I was, I guess it's not 5 years. I can't do math.
3.
19, yeah, 3 years. 3 years. So
got it. Yeah.
I was a general manager, I guess, for 3 years then. And I knew I didn't want to do it anymore. I looked at my peers who were a lot older than me. They're late 40s, 50s. And I'm like, these guys are nowhere close to retiring. And something that I've always, since I can remember, about understanding needing to work is I don't want to work my entire life. Because that's what we end up doing. Most of us end up doing, right? Is we start working, some of us a little bit later, 20, 18, 19, 20, depending on what life hands us. And then we work our entire lives just to retire at what? At 62 is the earliest age, I think, that Social Security kicks in.
And then by then, you're probably so worn out, burnt out, all those things. The things that you had been putting off and saying, I'm going to do it. This is something I can do when I'm retired. You don't even have the energy or the capacity or whatever it is to get to those things.
Because you spent your entire life
working towards exactly
to make money
to be able to do those things, and then when you get there, you can't.
I saw this picture a while back ago that projects like the perfect analogy of life. And it's this young man and he's chasing after a dollar bill. The next picture he's a little bit older and there's a couple more dollar bills, right? And that's kind of how it progresses until he's an old man. And when he's an old man, he's gray hair, everything. He's got tons of money. Right. He's holding he's caught all the dollar bills. He's at the end of his road. The cliff is right here. Oh my God. The cliff's right here. He's got all the money, but life is over. So it don't matter. So
wow.
And that kind of comes back to where I am currently in my career at the moment. To connect the dots there a little bit. Right now, I just left a career where I've been there for 10 years. And I was making really good money. Really, really good money.
Really good money.
More money than I ever thought I would ever make in my life. And I walked away from it though. Because it was time to move on. Because money, the thing that I've learned in life, some people are going to say, "Oh, you're crazy." I've made enough money in my life at this point to know that that's not what brings you happiness.
It doesn't.
And I know some people are like, you have to worry about, you don't have to worry about bills and blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you what happens when you don't have to worry about bills. And you probably know this. You actually start thinking about life. Purpose, yes.
Purpose.
Exactly.
Purpose, yes.
You start to get the time to think about all of these things that are usually taken up by, I got to make sure I get this paid. I got to make sure my kids are fed. I got to make sure that this gets done. But what happens when you stop and think about life and what you're doing with it? It's just like we get stuck on this hamster wheel, right? And a lot of times people end up working their entire lives and they have a good career and make a lot of money, but were they ever fulfilled in life?
And I mean, okay, this is when I'm at the edge of my seat. I'm like, yes, come on. It only took us 40 minutes to get here. But anyway, but I is so true. And the reason why I say that is so true because, and you know a little bit about how I started this platform. But that was the thing. I had always been asking myself, what was my ultimate purpose? What was I put here to do? So that was always a question that I was asking myself and I was challenged with. And that question came and went. It came and went ever since I can remember.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with some individuals and I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? And the thing is, I'm at a point when I'm having this conversation, I'm at a point in my life where I have a nice house. Mm-hmm. I have a nice car. Oh, yeah. I have a good job. Mm-hmm. I have these beautiful, smart kids. Yeah. Like, somebody looking in is like, Harli has a perfect life.
Got it all.
You've got it. And I'm sitting here like, but there's still something missing.
Right.
And, the person who shall remain nameless was like, you're stupid. You've got everything. And you're still trying to figure out how to get more. But that's the thing, they misunderstood. I'm not trying to figure out how to get more. I'm trying
materials.
Exactly. That's not what I'm trying to figure out here.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out my purpose. What's the purpose, right?
Right.
You can have all these things. It's fine. Great. But you're not fulfilled.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And there was something that somebody told me last year that I think resonated and really pushed me towards figuring out my purpose because I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. My entire life, all I've done is focused on making money. And
you should come to this workshop I'm having next Saturday, Rick. Anyway, we'll talk about that offline. Anyway, right. Okay.
So I lost my train of thought.
I
got to thinking about the
workshop. I know. So you felt like you didn't know what your purpose was. Like you're going through,
I went through life. I've accomplished all these things, and I've accomplished, something that I'm proud of. And it's not to put anybody down by no means. Is that I feel like, and I think that I'm probably one of the most successful individuals out of my family. It's myself and one other that went to college. I'm not saying college is a requirement because I will tell you, as somebody that went to 4 years of college after working for. I was 30 when I went back to college. So what is that? 16 years I was in the workforce before I went back to college. My first 2 years was a waste. Like everything that if you never worked before,
because you were in the workforce already, right? But like for a lot of people, I started college. I had never had work experience. So for me, those 2 years were probably very much needed. But for you, who had worked, you got that experience, you became a manager.
Yeah.
You're like, seriously?
Yeah, I breezed through
the first 2 years. Right.
And, I got my Associates of Arts, and my GPA was 3.9 when I graduated. Along with honor, I got National Collegiate, NCHS. So National Collegiate Scholarship, I can't say.
Okay, but you got an accomplished, a very well coveted.
I got honors.
Exactly.
Yes. And continued with my bachelor's degree in business, Bachelor of Science in Business. Also graduated with honors and was recognized by Delta Mu Delta as well, based on my GPA. And so I think I graduated with a 3.8, something like that. So there's benefits, I think, to working before you go to college. But, depending on what life hands you. Yeah.
I don't think life hands you anything. I think it's like spaghetti.
Yeah.
It throws itself on the wall. Exactly. You just gotta be. Hey, you gotta have something.
Gotta have that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, I'm not saying that college is a waste of time, but for somebody that's been in where the first 2 years wasn't that great.
Mm-hmm.
The second two though was really good. Learned a lot about accounting,
Mm-hmm.
organization, development, compensation,
Mm-hmm.
benchmarking, all of those kind of things. So the
Mm-hmm.
last 2 years was really good. So anyways, going back to purpose,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we were on.
Yeah.
Going back to purpose. So I worked my entire life really hard, and I left Wendy's and went to work for Procore Solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a pay cut at that time to work as a customer service representative, taking phone calls
Mm-hmm.
for a natural gas company.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that probably about 3 months and was promoted to workforce management, which in that position was basically monitoring incoming calls to make sure service level agreements were met, along with probably like the biggest accomplishment I achieved in that role was helping them develop this Excel macro.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I wrote the macro, but I know people that do.
That's
Exactly. The key.
I know people that can do that.
That's right.
Right.
Helped write this macro in Excel that basically identified all these gaps that we had in covering clients. Because when I went to workforce management, it was for Procore.
Mm-hmm.
It was for a
Yep.
third party, and so they had multiple clients that they took calls for. And so this spreadsheet we created basically was like showed all the gaps. It was like, oh, between 11 and 12, you have nobody to take calls
to cover
for this client.
Wow. Okay.
And that was like this big issue where
Yeah.
I continued to miss some SLAs here and there. And they really couldn't figure out why.
Yeah.
Until I put this sheet together, and I was like, well, here, this is why.
Mm-hmm.
This shows you all of the gaps that exist right now in scheduling. And so they love that, and it afforded me the opportunity to be promoted to a supervisor. So within 8 months, about 8 months of being there, I was already a super. I was back in leadership.
Mm-hmm. Can't run away from it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's just like this natural thing.
Listen, you have a gift. You have a gift. Own it. Own it.
Thank you. So I was back into to being a leader again with them, and then the company. There were some things that happened with the company. Long story short, there, keep from going into too much detail. Is natural gas company decided to.
It's out.
Yeah.
Gas out. Anyway.
Natural gas company decided that they wanted to insource their customer care, which is a great idea.
Yeah.
And that was like a huge moment for my career where it changed the trajectory of my career, and then also just the personal life and my financial wellness as well. That was really like the start to having any kind of financial wellness, to be honest with you. Because working at Wendy's and the hours, the money, it's not great.
Yeah.
Took me a little while to realize
to figure it out.
17, 18, 19, it was wonderful.
Listen, right. You gotta start somewhere, right?
Right.
Okay.
But as life starts throwing stuff at you,
exactly.
that money starts to dwindle pretty quick. So I went to work with them as a supervisor, and I did that for probably about 6 or 7 months before I had the opportunity to lead what was called the online customer care team. And that was a really neat opportunity because it was kind of new at the time with customer chats and emails. That technology was just kind of becoming popular.
Yeah, coming out.
Yeah, and so I had this really cool opportunity to build this team, processes, procedures, and policies on how to handle customer care, which was very, very rough. And the reason it was rough is because we had employees that came from like this corporate environment, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. On the weekends, you're not working.
Right.
On a holiday, you might get to leave early.
Yeah.
But now this team has been moved into a call center environment.
Yeah.
And trying to get them to understand that you only got the 2 15-minute breaks, you've got your hour lunch.
Very structured. Yes.
Right. Coming to that structure was extremely difficult.
Right.
And not that I necessarily cared one way or the other. That's what was required.
Right.
And so that was very difficult. We went through a good bit of turnover, unfortunately. And then that was a very trying moment in my career. That was one point in my career was like, I don't know if I want to be a leader anymore.
Right.
Just because the personality sets
were
so strong.
Whew.
And
Yeah.
I'm pretty young at this age too, right? So I'm only 24, 25, right? And this is my first experience managing in more of a corporate type environment.
Yeah.
Because at Wendy's, as a general manager, you're HR,
You're
you're
everything.
finance, you're everything. Yeah, you do it all.
Right.
And so, trying to balance that this is the work that you got to do, but also support them. Like it come very very hard to support both sides of it. And long story short, we had some turnover, got some different employees, and it ended up being great. We had some of the best response times in emails at the time. I think the industry standard was like 6 hours, and we were at 2 hours. And then with chat, I think when we first started doing chat, we probably got maybe 100 a week. I think that's right. And then by the time I left that team, almost a year later, chat had increased like over 200%. Email response time had maintained it at 2 hours. Like it was pumping out work perfect. Like it was beautiful. Had dashboards in place. It was great. And then from there, I had the opportunity to go over to what was called business and government markets and run the operations over there. And I had a ton of success there because honestly there was a lot of low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things I was able to do to improve the systems with enrolling orders that we got from our large industrial customers and things of that nature. And then eventually had the opportunity to manage all of the operations for both our business and government markets, along with what was called mass markets, which included residential, small commercial customers. And so now here we are, 2018. I am managing the entire operations that is over billing, payment, transactions, and then industrial customer care. And what was really unique about the industrial customer care is that it was like its own little mini call center, right? So we were responsible for creating the customer experience, doing the quality assurance monitors, trying to set the vision for what we wanted
Which
to
you
accomplish.
had been through.
Yes.
You had seen all these different parts because of your progression through the company.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
So
I had a lot of experience in various areas. And so we did that for 2018 to 2023. However many years that is.
Yeah.
6, 5.
Yes.
Something like we'll go with that.
You're really pushing my math today.
I know, right?
No, just playing.
me too. Me too.
Anyway.
And so that's what I've done since 2018. Though the last 2 years of my career I spent on helping replace the customer information system. And that was a pretty huge project for the last 2 years. And the way I was involved in that is I helped design the functionality of how orders get put in, how it bills, how payments get processed, things of that nature. And then I helped lead the cutover for it as well, which was the first time I'd ever done anything
Something
like that.
That
was very intimidating.
Yeah.
You're asking me to ensure this multi-million-dollar project, technology project, gets successfully implemented. And I've never done this in my life. I'm not an IT person.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself an IT person.
Right.
Anyways. I kind of like to think of myself as a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
But I learned what to do with a cutover in 4 months, and successfully led a cutover in those 4 months. After I got finished with that, though, because during that time, those last 2 years, I was simultaneously still managing all of the billing, payments, and collections, and that was a full-time job on its own. But then I was also doing this project over here too, and supporting it. And when all of that was done, those last 4 months were very, very rough. A lot of hours, a lot of personalities to work with. Because if you know anything about an IT cutover or system cutover, you're working with everybody in the entire company.
Exactly.
And so definitely challenging personalities
Mm-hmm.
that came from that. And it all went great. All went great. But at the end of it, I was left feeling like, what is my purpose? Like I've done all these things, and I
Mm-hmm.
took the time to think about like my life.
Mm-hmm.
I told you that I wouldn't say I had a bad childhood, but up until probably that moment that I took time to really sit and reflect on my life, I probably would have told you it was bad.
Yeah.
And it was just coming to this realization that life is so short. And all this stuff, I don't know what like just triggered this in my head. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's all the events that have happened too, because you had COVID.
Yes.
I've got a cousin
Mm-hmm.
that has cancer, and he's not doing great.
Well, mm-hmm.
And he's been fighting this for the last year and a half, 2 years. There was a lot of people through COVID that passed away. And so I got to the end of that. I finally got a chance to have a break. I guess that's what it was.
Yeah, the silver lining, right?
I finally took some time off.
Yeah.
And during that time, it allowed me to reflect on everything I've done in life, everything I've accomplished. And then I came to this question of, what is all of it for? Why do I do all this? Like, why do I kill myself at a job? Why do I stress myself out? For what? Like, what is it all for at the end of the day? I love my cars now.
Yes.
I don't know if I'll ever get over the car thing. Like, I'll always have my car.
But you have this passion, right? And this is crazy because we're almost at the end. But I want to touch on this because I feel like that's a vital key component to your purpose. You have this passion about cars. That's like, hold up, wait a minute now. You know what I'm saying? And it's not something that's is something very unique and specific.
Yeah.
And I think that is where you would probably start to look when it comes to your purpose. Like, okay, there's something there, and there's something that keeps bringing me back here. Why?
Yeah.
Why? What is this fulfilling for me? What am I getting out of this? And another thing too, I have to tell this quick story on the pod because I kind of feel like you're actually, unbeknownst to you, you're actually kind of one of those individuals that kind of helped me on this journey, not even knowing that's what you were doing. But in 2020, I started supporting at our job. I started supporting your organization, and so it involved me sitting in on many panel interviews.
Yes.
And so I think we probably went a full year on panel interviews, like every month.
Yes, that
right?
1 year, yes.
I felt like, I saw Derek every day. But anyway, so it was like me, Derek, Brandon. Hey, Brandon.
Yes.
And so we were on these panel interviews, and Derek had this specific question that he would ask every single candidate. And the question was, and he set them up real good. Like, he set them up. He was like, I want you to succeed. Like, I want you to answer this question the way it needs to be answered. But it never failed. So he asked, and he said, there's a reason why you are here in this interview right now. Like, we know that based on where you are right now, in this moment, you're a hard worker. You are a team player. You love what you do. You like helping others. Like, those are all great answers.
Which is
right?
what got them to that point.
Exactly, right? So we know that.
Yeah.
Don't answer that way.
Yeah, we don't need you to tell us.
Exactly. We don't need you to tell us again, right? So we want you to tell us, what is it unique about you that nobody else will be able to bring to the table?
Yes.
And so you're sitting here in the moment, and I was so excited. Like, I couldn't wait to get to the interview to get to that question.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, okay, yes. And it never failed. We might have got one or two people.
Yes, it's very rare people
It
know that
is.
question.
It was kind of shocking if we did get somebody that answered the question like appropriately. And one day after this panel interview, I think it was on a Friday, and then over the weekend, I don't know why, but Derek's question just kept, I just kept hearing it in my head, and I was like, well, how would I answer it?
Yeah.
if I was on the panel interview and Derek asked me that question, how would I answer it? And I was just like,
yeah,
holy cow. But it probably took 10 seconds and the answer just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
And for me, it's passion. My passion and my energy is something that I bring to the table that is unique to me and nobody else. I may not be good at math. I may not be good at a lot of things, but I promise you, nobody will be able to to bring the level of passion and energy that I bring to the table or when I walk into a room.
Absolutely, and that's exactly it. You're right. And
yes,
that's what I love so much about working with you and just being friends. You're always happy.
Listen, I don't know if I'm always happy, but
always happy when I'm around.
Yeah, exactly. Won't get right. But and so really, that that put me on the path of okay, so I have passion, I have energy. What other core values really represent me? Yeah. So in your journey to figuring out your purpose, I leave you with a little gift. I think first what you need to do is identify your core values. What is it that is non-negotiable for you? This is who Derek is going to be without question, without doubt. And no matter what, those are going to be the core values that I walk in every single day. Yeah. And for me, it was passion, energy, connection, and influence. So part of it was like when I was really digging and looking at myself, why people say that I'm so happy and I'm so bubbly and I'm so friendly. It's so annoying. It's like, those are so annoying qualities. And we took strength finders.
Yeah.
And I was the only person on the team who got woo. I was like, what the? If it's a woo. I was just like, so you got people over here that are achievers. You have people over there that are futuristic and I'm woo. I was just like, this is for the birds. I was just like, no. But then when I started digging down, I was like, it is my unique ability to starve and to bring out connection in people. Yeah. So I have a unique ability to connect with whoever you are, wherever you're from, whatever you do. I can find that connection and I can work off of that connection. Yeah. And so when people are like, oh my God, Harley's in the room and she's a social butterfly. But what you don't understand is I'm actually connecting with every single person that I'm having a conversation with. Yeah. And that is part of my core values. Yes. That is how I'm built. Awesome. And so, so as you go through that journey of purpose, of tapping and discovering your purpose, I think that is one thing that you'll have to kind of sit down and really think about and really dig into. It's like, okay, what are my core values? What is it that makes Derek unique? And one of them you kind of already identified. I don't know what the word is, but you've identified, you're like, it might take me some time to figure out something, but by golly, once I figure it out, that's it. Yeah. That is a core value.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The attention is I need to understand how things work.
The mechanics behind it, what's involved, what does it impact, like all of that. Yeah. To be able to see that big picture, once you have it, that's a skill set. That's a core value. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't know what I want to do with it at the end of the day, and that's what I'm taking the time to figure out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm blessed enough to be able to
do that.
Take a little bit of time to not work and figure out what I want to do in my life. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. At the end of the day, that's what life is about, right?
Exactly. Figuring out. Exactly.
That could be when you're 20, could be when you're 60.
It has no timeline. None. And that means that once you figured it out, because you're going to figure it out, then you're going to come back on the pod and you're going to be like, boom, I got it. And so Derek will be coming back. The hashtag Rick will be coming
I appreciate
back.
that.
All right. Cool. Well, this is crazy, but we're like, this is our episode for today, right?
I know. We could go for another couple hours, I'm sure.
We could.
We only scratched the surface.
Wow. Okay. So there's like part 2 and part 3 coming up.
Maybe. I get to talking. I could talk all day. So I'm going to be that old man at the supermarket.
Oh, Lord.
That you run into.
Where you're just kind of like, I just said hi. That's all I
Yeah.
did. And
Hey,
now
how
I
you
know
doing today? Oh, I'm doing great. You know, I just went down the road and see.
You're just like
20
10 minutes later.
I just come to get some milk and eggs. It's like,
I know. That's scary. Anyway, but that's all we had for our show today. I really appreciate you being transparent with us and sharing your journey, because one of the things that I strive to communicate and put out there through this platform is tell individuals, whatever you're going through, you're not alone. Somebody can relate to what you're going through. Somebody's been through it. Somebody's going through it. And so I think there's power in knowing that you're not alone. There is a community behind you, unbeknownst to you. And you just, sometimes it just means that somebody else just needs to say, I see you. I know what you're going through. That's all we need to hear, right? To keep going, to take that one more step.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. We are dropping new episodes every week. We've been fortunate enough to do that, so I'm really happy about that. Thank you all for hanging in there with me, and be like, you know, even when the sound wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can barely hear Harley. Well, we are upgrading our equipment, so hopefully you're listening to this pod and you're like, wow, the sound is amazing. Exactly. Baby steps, y'all. We're coming. And so we're dropping episodes every Monday. We are also on social media, Instagram and Facebook, Inside the Bubble HD. So make sure to follow us, like, share, drop a review. If you felt like Derek's story resonated with you, we'd love to hear that.
Yes.
And you know what I always say, even as Derek is going through his journey right now, and everybody is going through their specific journey, there's a purpose in that story.
Yes.
Till next time. I hope you enjoyed our show today. Hit the subscribe button and share. Share this pod with your family, with your friends, with your girlfriends. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Inside the Bubble with HG. Keep the conversation going. Drop us a heart emoji. Engage with us. We would love to hear from you. New episodes are dropping every Monday on your podcast streaming platforms. And remember, there's purpose in your story.